So this is Steve, and I'm here with Tom Smith, Councilman Tom Smith. Tom, we appreciate your time today.
Happy to be here.
Well, we wanted to talk about a few things. Last night at the council table, you brought up an article that was written in the Journal-Gazette about Trine University and the Steuben County commissioners kind of rejecting one of their ideas. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, I saw that, I read the article, and that's what I referred to at council, as you mentioned. It's about a $28 million project there. I assume it's in Angola, because I think that's where Trine is at, and they wanted to expand. They wanted to refurbish some buildings and build some new buildings, all for modern, high-tech things. A lot of it dealing with the medical industry. $28 million investment. And they went to the commissioners there and said, let's go 50-50. And the commissioners said, no, we can't come up with that $14 million that's needed for that because we're putting it into roads and other things. And so they turned it down. I'm not going to get into the debate of what they should have or should have not done there in Steuben County, but it just seemed to me the minute I read that, I said, let's get them here. This is the kind of thing that the business, our alliance has been talking about, the partnership has been talking about, these groups that are economic development engines. I said, let's go after, let's get them here. Let's run up to Angola and talk to Trine and see if we can bring them to Fort Wayne. We're just now getting that Manchester School of Pharmacy here. That's high tech. We could start to become more of a high-tech place. These were high-paying jobs, going to be top educational opportunities. So I said, look, let's go after them. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. I'll be talking with some of those folks probably tomorrow about this to see if they're interested. But I think it's an opportunity, and we can't afford to miss that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And that was one of the things that was talked about 2 weeks ago at council. The kind of that leg. The triangle between IPFW and was it St. Francis or Indiana Tech, and
so this was an opportunity, and according to the Trine University, they want to stay in Northeast Indiana. Well, we're in Northeast Indiana, so I'm saying let's go for it. We were probably the only other city, I would guess, that would have a chance at that. I don't know. I mean, we're big enough. We have facilities. Maybe we have the money. I'm not sure. This would probably be something that the city and the county would have to do together. So I said, hey, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Commissioners, all you top economic development guys, go on up there and talk to them. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we'll see that happen, Steve. I hope it does. I hope they make the effort.
Sure. Okay. One of the other things that was talked about at City Council, and that's come up a couple times over this term, over the last 4 years, we talked a little bit about CEDIT bonding and some of the costs, the outrageous costs that are associated with bonding, and what really is an anticipation of getting the money. You and Councilman Harper and Schoaf have talked about this quite a few times. Tell me your ideas about CEDIT bonding and maybe a different direction that we should go.
Well, first of all, I think it's time that no matter what kind of public dollars we're spending, that we try to focus more on pay-as-you-go rather than more debt. I don't care if it's CEDIT money or whatever, but that's one aspect, because that money then just gets locked up for all these years, paying off some $10 million, $20 million bond, etc. And I just don't think that's necessary. And I think I'd like to see more of that CEDIT money go back into neighborhoods. Now, Steve, as you probably recall, a couple of years ago, the mayor took away, if you will, the money we had to use, CEDIT money, to spend in neighborhoods. It was about $450,000. Sometimes we get as much as $2 million or $3 million in requests, but still, that money helped because we could say this is going to go into my district and, fix things, whether it's sidewalks, put in street lighting, fix streets, drainage problems whatsoever. I don't know that less is being done because we don't have control of it. I don't have any evidence of that. But sometimes it's those little projects, Mrs. Smith calls you up and says, Councilman, I got a problem, and it's a $5,000 problem or something like that. Well, it usually doesn't get up on the city's radar screen, but it could get up on my radar screen, and we can get it done for her. So I would like to have some of that money back. I don't see any chance of that at the moment. I don't think the mayor's talking about that. And I don't know that I've either pressed him to give the money back or other council members have. But we'll see. I think this could all tie in to this light lease money, what's being called the legacy funds. because that money will act as if it's CEDIT dollars. It'll probably go into a lot of infrastructure. At least I hope it does. I hope it goes into neighborhoods. I've called for putting actually $20 million of that money into neighborhoods, $5 million into each quadrant. I think that would make some significant improvements over the next 2 or 3 years, however long it takes you to spend that money, to build up the neighborhoods, because the neighborhoods are the backbone of our community. And if you got nice neighborhoods, this city grows, and that's all economic development. So I think that's important. So whether it's CEDIT dollars, those economic development dollars, or this legacy fund money, I think a lot of it should go into infrastructure. I think taking care of public needs is the city's #1 job, and that usually means things. Now that doesn't mean it all has to go into things. They should probably save some of the money, maybe put some aside for economic development in what's been called an opportunity fund. Maybe to put up $1 million or so or something, some number into that, and maybe get the county to put in some money and use that as seed money then to leverage it and try to go out and get more money from private foundations and private business. That way you'd have our economic development folks would have a pool of money to use in case they needed it and they had to act very quickly on a project or bringing some company here, and you needed $1 million or $2 million right away to do something. They'd have the money to do it. Mm-hmm. That could be a very good use of the money. So I think that one of the things that I would also like to see it spent on, when you talk to the business community, many businessmen think that our city's gateways need to be improved, particularly the one from the airport into downtown. That might be a very worthwhile use of the money. That comes under economic development. And so those are some things that I think we can take a long look at. I'm not too fond of the idea of putting money into social service agencies, community agencies. Not that I have anything against them, they're all very good. But that money tends to go towards operating budgets. I don't think this money should ever be used for something like that. It has to be something that's lasting. Now, I don't know if it means a new building, but it's got to go into infrastructure. Mm-hmm. I mean, look, we're putting $250,000 or $250 million into our sewers. Well, you can't see any of it, but it's good infrastructure. But I'm sure this money, when we spend it, will be seen, whether it's in neighborhoods or whatever.
Have you, as a councilman, been getting a lot of calls from constituents about the issue?
I'm starting to get more and more. Mm-hmm. And what I've been doing is, whenever I go to a neighborhood association meeting, I say, look, when this legacy committee starts having its public meetings, go to the meetings and tell them you want improvements for neighborhoods, because neighborhoods can get overlooked. They just can. This isn't flashy or glitzy, fixing streets and sidewalks and that sort of thing. And so I think you got to push for it. And I'm going to be encouraging all the partnership chairs when they have their meetings over the next month or two to always remind people to go out and speak, or maybe the partnerships themselves can get together and say, look, here are some major neighborhood needs. I know, for instance, I was talking to Adrienne Maurer. She's the chairman of the Southwest Area Partnership, and she's very concerned about alleys. There's a lot of alleys in her quadrant that need fixed. Well, alleys, you don't see them. They're not sexy. They're not glamorous, but they're important. So we'll see where the money goes.